Nutrition can be defined as the process of obtaining and utilizing essential nutrients from the food in order to support the metabolic activities that take place in all the organisms. So, nutrition is obtaining and utilizing essential nutrients from the food that we take to support all the activities that take place in the organisms. Now, nutrients can again be classified into macronutrients and micronutrients. We'll be discussing this in a later video, but nutrients can be macro or micro. And a balanced diet is very important to the overall well-being of the organism. Depending on how the organisms obtain their food, we basically have two different modes of nutrition. So first we have the autotrophs and then we have the heterotrophs. So autotrophs are the organisms that can produce their own food and they are also called the producers. So autotrophs are the organisms that produce the food energy for nearly all the ecosystems on this earth, and they occupy the base of the food chain. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, are considered consumers because they are dependent on food from other organisms. So, consumers sit just above the producers in the food chain. So, the best examples for autotrophs are the green plants. As we all know, the leaves contain the pigment chlorophyll that is essential in absorbing the energy from sunlight. So, the leaves are the tissues in plants that are photosynthetic, and this is how plants are able to produce their own food. All the animals mostly are heterotrophs because they cannot produce their own food but are either dependent on plants or other organisms for their food. Let's start with autotrophic nutrition. So auto is self and trophic refers to nutrition. So those organisms that can produce their own food are considered autotrophs. So autotrophs are able to produce their own food from using inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water. And the energy required for this usually comes from the sunlight or from inorganic chemical reactions. So some important examples for autotrophs include all the green plants. Then most important is cyanobacteria, which is also called blue-green algae. Cyanobacteria or blue-green algae are in fact considered among the first organisms on this earth to actually carry out photosynthesis. So they were one of the earliest adopters of photosynthesis, and they released oxygen into the atmosphere. First, we have the photoautotrophs. So all the organisms that obtain their energy from sunlight are considered photoautotrophs, and they are able to produce their food through a process called photosynthesis that takes place in the leaves of the green plants. So photosynthesis is a chemical reaction that is able to utilize the energy from sunlight and then produce the food, which is nothing but glucose, which is a carbohydrate. And then we have chemoautotrophs. So chemoautotrophs are a class of organisms that obtain their energy from the oxidation of inorganic molecules such as iron, sulfur, or even magnesium. So these organisms also produce their own food, but the energy is coming from the oxidation of inorganic molecules. The most interesting feature about these organisms is they usually live in very harsh environments like the deep thermal sea vents. So some key examples of these organisms include the nitrogen fixing bacteria which are present in the soil like Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter, and some sulfur oxidizing bacteria like Thiobacillus. Thiobacillus is a sulfur oxidizing bacteria that obtains its energy from hydrogen sulfide, and these organisms are found in the deep thermal sea vents. So this is about chemoautotrophs. The second mode of nutrition is heterotrophic. So hetero means different, meaning these organisms are actually depending on other plants or animals for their source of food. Now heterotrophs are again classified into three different kinds. So first one is Holozoic nutrition. Then we have saprophytes or saprophytic nutrition. Finally, we have parasitic nutrition. So these are the three distinct classes under heterotrophs, and we'll be studying one by one. Now heterotrophs are also important for the environment because they mainly help in the recycling of nutrients, especially the saprophytes. They are very important to the ecosystem because they help in recycling the nutrients and also help to keep our environment clean. So let's start with Holozoic nutrition. So holo means complete or whole. So in Holozoic nutrition, the organisms take solid or liquid food and digest the food inside their body in a series of steps. So Holozoic organisms carry out intracellular digestion, or we can say that the digestion is internal. It is taking place in the body of the organism. Now, internal digestion takes place in multiple steps. The first one is ingestion, which refers to the intake of food into the body, followed by digestion. Now, digestion is most important because this is where the complex biomolecules need to be broken down into simpler molecules, and this requires the presence of digestive enzymes. Digestion is followed by absorption of the digested food or the nutrients from the products of digestion. And then we have assimilation. So whatever nutrients are absorbed into the cells of the body, this nutrients can be then used to generate energy, which is nothing but ATP, or it can also be used to synthesize new proteins, DNA, and a bunch of other functions. So assimilation of food is a biological process where the digested nutrients are absorbed into the cells of the body and then used for a lot of functions inside the cells. So this is called assimilation, and whatever waste products are generated in this whole process needs to be sent out of the body, which is called egestion. So this is about Holozoic nutrition. So all the organisms that are Holozoic need to have a robust digestive system because the food is digested internally, and this requires the presence of key digestive enzymes. Now we have a lot of examples here. All the vertebrates, human beings, cats, rats, dogs, most of the animals that we see around us are actually undergoing Holozoic nutrition. Apart from multicellular organisms, we also have amoeba, which is a unicellular organism, and it also undergoes Holozoic nutrition. Next, we have the saprophytic nutrition. So, sapro actually refers to rotting. So, all the animals that decompose and feed on the organic litter for their energy resources are commonly referred to as saprophytes. So, one important thing to note is these organisms do not have a digestive system. So, these organisms usually secrete their enzymes externally into the environment, and these enzymes will help to break down the dead and decaying matter outside the organism. So here we can say that the digestion is external because the food is broken down into simpler molecules outside the body. So once the food is broken down into simpler molecules, the nutrients can simply be absorbed into the body of the organism. So digestion here is extracellular. It is taking place outside the body of the organism. So the best examples for saprophytes are the fungi and some bacteria. So fungi such as mushrooms break down and absorb the nutrients from the dead and decaying organic matter or dead organisms. The staleness of bread and other related food items is also caused due to this similar process, where the fungi or the bread mold, we can say, the fungi is feeding on the bread and deriving its nutrition from the bread. These organisms are very crucial to the ecosystem as they are helping us to recycle nutrients and dead organisms, thereby helping us to make sure that the surroundings are very clean. The last one is parasitic nutrition. So here we have organisms that are called parasites. So these parasites usually live inside or outside the body of another organism, which is called the host. So parasites can either live inside or on the outer surface of the host and get their nutrition from the host. So these organisms are usually dependent on the host for their survival as they cannot prepare their own food. So the host is very important for their survival, and in some cases the host may also be harmed by the parasite. Plants and animals can both act as hosts. So the parasites can either derive nourishment from a plant or an animal host. It is estimated that roughly 40 to 50% of all the animal species on this earth are actually parasites. So we have at least 50% of the population that is actually existing as parasites. Now parasites can again be classified into ectoparasites and endoparasites. So ectoparasites live on the outer surface while endoparasites live inside the host. Leeches are a best example for an ectoparasite, while important examples for endoparasites include tapeworms or the roundworms. Now it's interesting to note that tapeworms actually lack a digestive system, while roundworms actually contain a robust digestive system. So parasites are the organisms that show dependency on a host organism for their nourishment, and in some cases may also cause some harm to the host.